The judge starts. And for the final verdict of the case against Anazaki Satoru, for the murder of 15 people, you are sentenced to capital punishment. Satoru listens, his face showing a sense of calm. With this, I'll finally disappear from this rotten world. Due to the defendant being 16 years old of committing the crime, and thanks to the revision of the juvenile law, the sentence shall be executed within 3 months of the date of conviction if there are no appeals. Spring of last year. Investigators gather around a lifeless body of a young girl, her clothes torn, lying in the grass. The investigators speak in hushed, horrified tones about the nature of the crime, their words filled with disbelief. The memory shifts to Satoru, learning of the terrible news over the phone. He struggles to comprehend what he's being told. His voice is filled with shock and grief as he repeats the devastating information. The person on the other end tries to calm him, urging him to listen carefully. But Satoru's world shatters as he understands the full extent of the tragedy. Back in the present day, Satoru stands in his prison cell, the weight of his memories heavy on his shoulders. An officer approaches, addressing him formally by his inmate number. The officer's simple words signal that the moment Satoru has been finally dreading has finally arrived. Anazaki Satoru, once a prodigy with a promising future, reflects on his drastic fall from grace. The officer, observing his situation, comments on the irony of a child prodigy with such high intelligence ending up in such circumstances, hinting at how Satoru's dreams had spiraled into chaos. Satoru remembers the world's reaction to his downfall, with some people envying him while others praised him. He was viewed as a genius, an attraction, yet no one truly saw his real self. Among these memories, Satoru thinks of Yuna, the one person who was different. He recalls how she always greeted him warmly and encouraged him regardless of his reluctance. She saw beyond his intellect and genuinely cared for him. Yuna often spoke to Satoru about how great geniuses had their portraits painted, suggesting he should have one too. She would tease him, comparing him to famous historical figures, but always with a playful smile. She once asked him to be her model for a drawing contest, despite his initial hesitation and belief that they were better subjects. Yuna's unwavering belief in his uniqueness showed her deep admiration for him, a sentiment that Satoru now deeply appreciates. In a vivid memory, Yuna speaks warmly, claiming to know everything about him and playfully acknowledging his best qualities. She expresses that, as his childhood friend, she is the only one who can truly capture his essence. Satoru, reflecting on this, realizes he has never fully understood what Yuna has thought about him. As she worked on her drawing, Yuna's genuine smile and focused gaze highlighted her dedication. Satoru wishes he had listened to her more and regrets not expressing his feelings for her. He understands now that he has always been in love with her. Satoru's reflections are filled with moments of happiness they shared, walking together with their bicycles under the evening sky. He acknowledges the depth of his emotions and the significance of those precious memories. In his final moments, Satoru thinks of Yuna, imagining a world where they could meet again. His thoughts are filled with a sense of peace and hope as he embraces the end with a belief that he will see her once more. As he faces his end, he reflects on how abruptly everything changed and how he never could have imagined such a turn of events. He remembers the promise he made to Yuna, vowing to seek justice for what happened to her. His determination has driven him to a path of darkness, culminating in the tragic headlines of his arrest for the deaths of 15 people. Satoru, now standing on the precipice of his fate, feels no fear. Instead, he thinks of Yuna and the possibility of being reborn in a different world where they might find each other again. As the final moment arrives, he is asked if he has any last words. Satoru, with a sense of peace, responds internally, knowing that his thoughts are with Yuna. In his mind, he holds onto the hope that, in another life, they could be together again, free from the pain and suffering that defined this one. Satoru stands with the rope around his neck, looking upward, thinking to himself about Yuna and the possibility of the two of them finding each other in another world. The platform beneath him creaks and gives way, sending him downward. As he hangs, he envisions finally being able to see Yuna again. His body sways slightly. Suddenly, though, he sees a light. Upon opening his eyes, he finds himself surrounded by darkness, his mind racing with confusion. He wonders what is happening, his senses overwhelmed. His eyes widen in shock and disbelief. What's happening? He thinks, trying to make sense of the situation. He questions why he is still alive and what this place is. The room feels unfamiliar, and his thoughts are a whirlwind of uncertainty and fear as he tries to understand his new reality. He finds himself lying atop a pile of lifeless bodies, their faces twisted in pain and horror. His own shock mirrors the gruesome sight beneath him. The lifeless eyes of the dead stare blankly, and Satoru feels a surge of panic. His mind races, trying to comprehend how he came up into this nightmarish place. The realization that he is alive amidst so much death sends chills through his body. Satoru's panic intensifies as he takes in his surroundings. The sheer number of bodies around him is overwhelming. He scrambles to his feet, his mind racing with questions. He wonders if he is in some kind of hell, unable to comprehend the nightmare he's found himself in. His eyes dart around in the dimly lit space, desperate, trying to make out any sense of his surroundings. The lifeless bodies are piled high, each frozen in a final moment. The sight is surreal and horrifying, and Satoru struggles to keep his composure. Suddenly, he notices movement among the bodies. People are dragging the corpses, working methodically. The realization hits him hard. These bodies are being dumped here deliberately. The horror of the situation is almost too much to bear. Satoru's mind races with fear and confusion. He can't understand why this is happening or how he ended up in this place. His thoughts are a whirlwind of panic and disbelief. He clutches his head, trying to calm his racing heart, but the terror of the situation keeps flooding back. He sees a group of individuals carrying another lifeless body towards the pile. They work with cold efficiency. Satoru watches, unable to look away. The grim reality of his situation is undeniable. As he continues to observe, he notices a few of the bodies twitching, a faint sign of movement. His heart skips a beat, and he takes a step back. The lifeless eyes of the dead seem to follow him, adding to his growing fear. Everywhere he looks, the scene is the same: death and despair. The dim light casts long shadows, making the place seem even more eerie and oppressive. Satoru's breathing becomes more erratic as he grapples with the terrifying reality of his situation. The figures dragging the body continue their task, seemingly unaware of Satoru's presence. He watches in a state of shock, his mind unable to process the sheer scale of the horror before him. Suddenly, one of the girls notices him and wonders why it's moving. Satoru is taken aback. Beast! The panic in her voice is palpable, causing Satoru to instinctively recoil in fear. What? A beast? He thinks. Confusion and alarm mixing in his mind. He sees the group, including the girl who screamed, and they're running away in terror. Wait, hold on a second! He shouts, but they continue fleeing. Desperately trying to understand, Satoru yells out, questioning the meaning of the pile of corpses and why the group is running. Outside, Satoru stands under the sky, unlike anything he's ever seen. Swirling patterns and the intense light radiate from the sun, making it appear otherworldly. His mind reels, unable to comprehend the bizarre changes. What's wrong with the sun? He thinks to himself, his confusion deepening. Panic sets in as he realizes the enormity of the situation. He cries out for help, his voice echoing in the vast empty space around him. Somebody, anybody, please help me. The confusion intensifies. He questions his own reality. Wasn't I executed already? He wonders, the thought echoing in his mind. In that case, am I really in hell? He looks around, taking in the strange surroundings. The buildings are familiar yet distorted. Satoru chases after the fleeing girls, shouting for them to stop. He catches up to one, who is visibly terrified. She looks at him and mutters something about his clothes. Satoru glances down, noticing his uniform. He realizes it resembles the Keidan school uniform. Is this my school? he wonders, bewildered. The girl pleads with him not to be killed. Confused, Satoru tries to reassure her, but she continues to back away in fear. No way. Then this place right here is my school? He thinks, trying to make sense of the situation. The girl continues to plead, her voice is filled with desperation, and Satoru, even more confused, asks why he would kill her. But his question seems to go unheard. A figure from behind approaches. Satoru turns to see a man in a uniform. Before he can react, the man strikes him forcefully, sending him sprawling to the ground. The pain radiates through his body as he struggles to understand what is happening. The man pulls out a radio and identifies himself as Officer Hatakate Yama, announcing that he has spotted the suspect and is commencing the arrest. Satoru's mind races, trying to comprehend why he is being targeted. The officer takes off his pants. He dashes forcefully towards the girl. He rips her button-up open. Satoru questions what the hell is going on as the officer forces himself on the girl. A sudden splash of blood comes out of his body. The girl looks on in confusion. Satoru towers behind the man, piercing him with a shovel. The officer collapses, and the girl, still in shock, stares at Satoru, who stands there, breathing heavily. He looks at the fallen officer and then at the girl. His face reflects a mix of anger and determination. He raises the shovel again and strikes the officer repeatedly, ensuring that he is no longer a threat. Blood splatters everywhere as Satoru's rage takes over. The girl watches, horrified and relieved, as Satoru deals the final blow. He stands over the officer's lifeless body, his hands trembling with the aftermath of his actions. The girl remains on the ground, her eyes wide with fear and disbelief. Satoru, having killed the officer, is in utter shock. Suddenly, a blonde girl appears, armed with a weapon, and asks the girl on the ground if she's okay. The situation grows more surreal for Satoru, who is grappling with the revelation that he was supposed to be dead. The blonde girl, Haruka-senpai, stands protectively between Satoru and the girl on the ground. Satoru tries to understand the situation, questioning if he is one of the beasts they mentioned. The girl on the ground suggests that Satoru might have been the one who killed the officer. Satoru, still in shock, struggles to process the conversation about beasts and attacking each other. Satoru's confusion deepens as he contemplates the possibility that he might be one of these so-called beasts. He demands answers. Haruka-senpai, gripping her weapon, yells at him not to come any closer. The tension is thick as she aims her bow at Satoru. Satoru can't believe what's happening. Haruka releases an arrow, narrowly missing him. He dodges, realizing she's serious about killing him with a bow. He knows it's only a matter of time before she hits her mark. Suddenly, something clicks in Satoru's mind. Haruka's face and the determination in her eye seems familiar. He feels like he's been in a similar situation with her before. Desperate to survive, Satoru runs. Haruka shouts for him to stop, her voice echoing through the empty building. He struggles to piece together the truth of his situation. His focus is on finding a way out of this nightmare. He stumbles into a room and looks out the window. The sight before him is unbelievable. The city he once knew lies in ruins, buildings toppled and smoke rising from the wreckage. The devastation is complete. Satoru wonders if he is dreaming. Everything he remembers is gone. Suddenly, Haruka and two other students, armed with makeshift weapons, corner him. Haruka yells at him to stay still. Satoru recognizes one of the voices, calling him Onizaki. They seem to know him from before. One of the students, Makino, cautiously approaches, trying to confirm if he is indeed the genius boy they remember. Satoru acknowledges Makino, confirming his identity. Haruka can't believe he's alive. She insists they killed him and left his body in a warehouse. She explains that he became a beast without any sense of will after something called a flare happened. Satoru, trying to make sense out of her words, asks what she means by killed him. He begs them to continue to explain what happened to the world while he was unconscious. The term flare confuses him further. Makino starts explaining solar flares, explosions that happen on the sun's surface. Satoru recalls learning that this year was when the sun was most likely to have a solar flare. The sun produced an unimaginable large super flare. The shockwave of the solar winds reached Earth, disrupting the magnetic field and affecting the surface. The flare created a powerful plasma that broke through the magnetosphere, resulting in a massive amount of electrical energy. This energy surge rendered all electrical facilities and equipment useless, driving people insane. Makino explains that the super flare disrupted the Earth's magnetic field and affected the surface, causing chaos and insanity. The plasma from the flare created a massive amount of electrical energy, leading to widespread destruction and the breakdown of society. Haruka insists that even a genius like Satoru couldn't have predicted such a catastrophic event. She tells him to look outside the school and understand the extent of the devastation. Satoru peers out and sees the ruins of the city, a stark reminder of the super flare's impact. Outside, monstrous figures roam the street. These are the transformed humans affected by the flare. They've lost their ability to think and have become savages. The powerful electromagnetic waves from the flare messed up men's brains. They are husks, wandering around, mimicking their old behaviors. Any woman they run into is attacked. Women are raped, murdered, and treated as food by those beasts. Without any means of communication, they don't know what's going on in nearby towns. It's been 3 months since the flare, and they survived thanks to the school's stockpile of supplies. Looking at the ruins of the city, the sense of hopelessness is overwhelming. Haruka demands answers from Satoru, asking who he is. Makino is certain that she killed Onizaki-kun. The gallows dropped, and the next thing he knew, he was in this world. Saya exclaims that it must be a parallel world reincarnation. Having heard theories about the existence of parallel worlds from countless outcomes, they think he might be trying to trick them for the chance to eat them. The concept of parallel worlds is met with skepticism. Makino expresses that it has always been men tormenting women, and declares that every man is a beast. She thrusts her weapon towards Satoru, who, enraged, yells back, demanding the accusations to stop. He questions why he has to live in this world, filled with anger and despair. Satoru shouts that all he wanted was to see Yuna on the other side. Makino, weapon still raised, accuses him of finally showing his true colors. He defends himself, insisting that he is not like the other men. He expresses his agreement that men who harm women should be punished, but maintains that he is different. Satoru, covered in blood and desperation, continues to deny being like the others, asserting that he would never harm anyone, even those about to kill him. Makino's eyes widen in surprise as she hears Satoru's desperate defense. She hesitates, her grip on the weapon loosening slightly. The girl with glasses suddenly speaks up, her voice filled with conviction. She declares that Satoru was the one who saved her and insists that he is not a beast. Haruka, frustrated and unwilling to help Satoru, storms off, declaring that she won't be a part of it. She tells the others to handle it themselves if they truly want to help him. The girl with glasses, now kneeling beside Satoru, asks if he can walk to the nursery. She looks at him with concern, her hands clasped together, ready to assist him. Satoru, still covered in blood, weakly raises his hand, urging her to stop. He looks down, his voice barely audible as he speaks. The girl calls out to him. Her concern is evident. Satoru, with a defeated look, pleads to be allowed to die again, expressing his exhaustion. The girl, desperate, insists that this time for sure they can make it through. Satoru declares his intent to go where Yuna is. The girl with glasses and the others follow him, concerned and surprised. Satoru reaches out, touching the portrait, recognizing it as the one Yuna has drawn of him. He is certain of its authenticity and feels a surge of emotions as he stares at the familiar artwork. Satoru recalls the state of the painting after Yuna was killed, torn and stained, a reflection of the tragedy. He wonders why it now appears intact. Makino, shocked by Satoru's mention of Yuna's death, questions him, seeking answers about the circumstances and reasons behind it. Her expression is one of confusion and concern. Satoru, wide-eyed, realizes that in this world, Yuna might still be alive. The possibility brings a glimmer of hope. The girl admits that she has no idea about Yuna's current status, but confirms that Yuna was alive before the flare happened. Satoru is stunned, realizing that Yuna might still be alive in this world. He sees a vision of Yuna, smiling and standing in a classroom, giving him hope that he might find her again. Satoru stands in shock, his heart racing at the possibility of Yuna being alive. The girl with glasses calls out to him, noticing his sudden change in demeanor. Satoru is looking over a city in ruins, the harsh reality of their situation hitting him hard. Determined, he clenches his fists and vows to find her. Satoru starts. Yuna. Suddenly, Satoru dashes outward as the girls panic, asking where he is going. Satoru says, I was planning on dying. I didn't have a reason to stay alive in this damn fucked world. But now, I have one! Yuna, I will meet you once again in this world. Satoru is walking away with determination. Two of the girls call out to him. One of them shouts, Anasaki-san! The other says, Anasaki-kun, where are you going? Satoru, with a determined and yet intense expression on his face, is speaking with urgency, saying, Isn't it obvious? I'm going to go search for Yuna. Satoru, walking away with a pained expression, blood staining his clothes. Two girls follow him, pleading with him to stop. One of them shouts, You can't! Not with those injuries! The other adds, Exactly! At least let us help treat your wounds! Satoru, with a surprised expression, his eyes wide as he suddenly collapses with someone. A deranged man is holding the lifeless body of a girl, his face twisted in a maniacal expression. He addresses that his victim is no longer moving. Haruka-senpai is lying on the ground, bloodied and gasping. The two girls look horrified, one of them covering her mouth in shock, the other screaming no. Satoru's eyes widen in disbelief as he stares at the scene, saying, You're kidding me, right? The man, standing over the scene, smirks sadistically. The deranged smile and blood splattered on his face. He is identified as Yuna's father. Shocked, the girls around them react with surprise. The realization dawns on everyone. I'm certain you're Ichinose Yuna's father. Aren't you? Satoru exclaims. Satoru urgently shouts, It's me! Satoru! Don't you recognize me? Mr. Ichinose! Mr. Ichinose's expression changes as he lunges forward with a crazed look. Satoru thinks in his mind, This can't be happening. He attacks Satoru with sudden ferocity. Mr. Ichinose's face contorts with rage and despair. Satoru exclaims, Just how fucked up is this world? Mr. Ichinose holds Satoru in a vice-like grip, their faces inches apart. Satoru struggles, his eyes wide with fear. Mr. Ichinose's face is contorted with a crazed expression as he speaks. It stinks, he says with heavy breaths. So this is what a beast smells like. This is reality. Blood drips from Mr. Ichinose. Satoru, with a fierce expression and blood splattered across his body, fights back with all his might. He shouts, Don't fuck with me! He forcefully strikes Mr. Ichinose, who is sent reeling backward, letting out a scream of pain. Satoru delivers a powerful strike to Mr. Ichinose's head. Satoru, injured and bloodied, wobbles as he walks down a hallway. A girl behind him shouts, Where are you going, Onizaki-san? Satoru, with a determined and intense expression, thinks to himself, I'm a guy, but he still tried to attack me. Even if Yuna's still his daughter, he'll... Satoru, injured and bloodied, wobbles as he walks down the hallway. A girl behind him shouts, You can't! Not with those injuries! What you need right now is some first aid! In a different scene, a girl is looking through a microscope in a clinic, a thoughtful expression on her face. The same girl thinks to herself, I knew it. The beasts definitely are. Inside the clinic, a girl shouts, Sensei, please help! He's wounded! Satoru is helped inside. Another girl reacts with shock.
Huh? Hold it! Isn't that a male?
A scene inside the clinic shows a confrontation.
Have you lost your mind? Bringing a beast here.
One girl defends Satoru.
You're mistaken. This boy is...
Satoru recognizes a familiar face.
Yasaka-sensei. From biology. That voice. Arizaki!
In the clinic, Yasaka-sensei treats Satoru.
His wounds aren't that deep. I gave him some painkillers too, so he should be fine for now. That's a relief,
says one of the girls. Yasakasa-sensei is skeptical.
But I find it hard to believe. You're telling me that you've reincarnated from a different world? Can it really?
Another girl supports Satoru.
More importantly, what we do know for sure is that Anazaki-kun is definitely not a beast. He even saved my life back then.
Satoru is seen sitting while a group of girls look in from the doorway, concerned and curious. Yasaka-sensei explains the current situation to Satoru, who is still recovering from his injuries. She gestures to the other girls in the room as she speaks.
There are currently around 30 people taking refuge within the school. Those girls are survivors from the nearby areas.
Satoru looks around the group, taking in this new information. One of the girls with short hair adds,
The school is the safest place around, after all.
Satoru, still confused by everything that happens, asks,
Safest? And why here?
The short-haired girl starts to explain, but Yasaka-sensei interrupts, her expression serious as she addresses Satoru directly.
Didn't you notice, Anazaki? The beasts have a distinct smell.
Yasakasa-sensei elaborates on her research, pointing to a diagram of chemical structures.
Based on my research, they're attracted to our scent. It's likely triggered by the female hormone, estrogen.
Satoru, looking puzzled, asks,
Scent? Wait a second. Males would also have estrogen in their bodies. That would explain why they also attacked me, but why don't the beasts just start attacking one another then?
Yasaka-sensei nods grimly.
That's because their dead bodies are incapable of producing estrogen.
Anasaki, surprised, asks,
Don't tell me that the electromagnetic wave of the flares affected their hormone secretions?
She answers,
That's a possibility. Anyway, the fence surrounding the large schoolyard here is keeping our scents from reaching outside. A stray beast does wander in occasionally, but as long as we stay alert, this place is fairly safe.
Satoru, looking at Yasaka-sensei with newfound respect, asks,
Yasaka-sensei, you're doing research on them?
Well, yes, she admits. Satoru's mind wanders back to his original goal.
Yuna,
he mutters. Yasaka-sensei, noticing his expression, asks,
You want to go out and search for Ichinose Yuna, right?
Seeing Satoru's determination, she warns him.
Going out at night is basically suicide. I'll suggest you rest here until tomorrow.
The scene shifts to the school cafeteria, where survivors are gathered for a meal. The atmosphere is tense as people look at their meager rations.
You're kidding me. This is all there is?
Someone asks, looking at a plate with just 3 small pieces of food. Suddenly, an argument breaks out.
Stop it, you two! You shouldn't talk like that!
One girl says, trying to calm the situation. Another girl shouts angrily.
No fair! I want some too! That's right, Haruka-san died, right? What's wrong? It's not like she needs it, she's already dead! Then give her portion to me then!
Another demands. Observing this chaos, Satoru turns to Haruka, next to him, and asks,
Is it not fine to stop them?
She replies somberly.
It happens all the time.
She continues, her expression grim.
Everyone's at their limit, physically and emotionally. We're almost out of food, too. We are running out of options.
Satoru, seeing the desperate situation, makes a decision. Hey, cut it out, he says firmly, trying to defuse the tension. He takes his plate and offers it to the arguing girls, saying, Here, I don't need my portion, so you two can... As he hands over his food, the group of girls recoil in fear as they shout, demanding that he stay away from them. The girl with glasses tries to calm them down. The girl with glasses Worried, speaks nervously.
Calm down, everyone. Anazaki-san is different.
Suddenly, a shout catches her attention, mocking the fact that Anazaki is different. She asks if she even hears herself. The girl is in bad shape, scratches all around her. Saya addresses her by the name of Arisu, and Arisu fires right back at her.
Have you forgotten just how much we girls have suffered at the hands of men up until now?
She angrily lists.
TV, molestation, rape, sexual harassment, discrimination. And that's not all, she continues,
her voice trembling.
Just by doing all those little things, being in the same elevator, walking behind us, speaking loudly next to us, they terrified us.
The other girls join in.
That's right. They don't even understand that, always expecting our gratitude for protecting us. But men were the ones we needed protecting from in the first place!
Anazaki does not let that slide. He defends himself.
It's true that some things are tough to do with only women around! But at least now we can all be equal! There's absolutely no way I'd want to go back to living with men!
Arisu then asks him,
Did you think we were going to purr like cats for you at your call? Too bad.
She declares angrily,
Engrave this into your head! The world of men is already over!
They start to throw plates at him as they shout.
Get out of here!
Saya, worrying, pleads.
Wait, calm down.
But they don't budge as they shout.
Stop existing right now!
Later that night, Anazaki is standing at the rooftop, thinking.
It's pitch black. There's not a single light to be seen. It's so dark I can't even tell if my eyes are open or closed. I can't blame them. If I was abandoned in this sort of world, I'd feel like cursing everything around me too.
He clenches the handle.
But if Yuna's still alive here, then this is the world I'd rather live in.
As he recalls what had happened.
Yuna, today, your father, I'll probably have to do even more painful things from here on out.
With a determined look on his face.
Even so, I will definitely come and save you.
Recalling the past.
I don't ever want you to experience something like that. Ever. Again.
Makino opens the door with a crack and joins him on the rooftop as she asks him,
Isn't it cold out here?
He looks back at her.
Makino-san, I'm sorry about earlier. The way they treated you.
And he reassures her.
Don't worry about it.
She then begins to beg him to stay.
I beg you, please stay here!
Pointing out that
everyone here is going crazy from despair. Even our emotions are dead. You saw it. Nobody even shed a single tear for Haruka's death.
The fear causes her to brace herself, and so she does. Concerned about the possibility of losing her feelings and being more and more like an inmate with those wicked creatures. Worried about losing the things that make her human. She desires to have a sense of hope. The anticipation of being alive. Like a ray of light, she addresses Anazaki directly, who had suddenly materialized in front of her from another realm. The connection between this horrible world and another serene one in which the flare never occurred is something that exists. There's a possibility they will be reborn into their world so long as Anazaki is still alive. While she was getting closer to him, she begged for the chance to have hope. After interrupting them, Yasuka inquires of Anazaki whether or not he has a moment to spare. At the medical center, Yasuka is being questioned by Anazaki about what she desires, and she insists that he take a seat. The solar flare that slammed into the earth had been 3 months ago. At this point, there was no longer any possibility that the government or the JSDF are performing their duties. It is Yasuka's firm belief that the world of mankind has reached its conclusion. The fact is that they are still alive. Consequently, it is their responsibility to take into account the days and years to come.
What is the future?
Anazaki inquires. They do, in fact, bear the responsibility for the future of the generation that comes after them. Tragically, each and every one of the young women who are attacked by the creatures ultimately meets a horrible end. It is a precarious circumstance that does not offer any hope for that of which is to come after them. Yasuka has successfully collected sperm from the beasts that they have managed to kill, having found a significant issue during the course of their investigation. She has been pondering a method that would allow the girls to conceive in a secure environment. But it has been observed that the sperm of the creatures do not contain any Y chromosomes. The exclamation came from Anazaki, who demanded to know what has just been spoken. It dawns on him all of a sudden. First, Yasuka removes her top, and she steps out of her bra, providing him with information. Unfortunately, as a result of the flare, the Y chromosomes that are necessary for male reproduction are no longer existent on this universe. At some point in the future, the only people left in the world will be women. Should that come to pass, the human race will undoubtedly go extinct. Anazaki asks her in a frightened manner why she's taking off her clothing. She responds by saying that he is going tomorrow. Because of this, she suggests that before he leaves at least, he should leave part of the sperm with them. The presence of Y chromosomes that are not in good condition and alive would be evidence that Anazaki has indeed arrived from another world. Is that what Makino said? The fact that Anazaki is a symbol of hope for her implies the same thing for Yasuka. There is hope for her in Y chromosomes. Even as he begs her to put an end to this, Anazaki grabs her by the shoulder and pulls her back. She reassures him by telling him that everything is fine, that she has expertise, which means that he does not need to do anything. And then she asks him what he would want to do. Her hand, her mouth, or something else. Anazaki throws up, which causes Yasuka to become concerned and ask him what is to blame, in light of the fact that those killers took Yuna. Furthermore, sexual offenders. After that, he went and found the perpetrators of the crime, and he executed them by severing their sexual organs, to the point that he yells that he despises sexual activity more than anything else in the world. He expresses his regret to her, and draws attention to the fact that he can only consider her attempts to entice him to be filthy and revolting, considering all of the anguish and distress that Yuna did. The recollection of it has not even the slightest bit dissipated from his heart. For the rest of his life, he will never, ever, ever partake in the filthy act of sexual activity. It is as soon as daylight arrives that he bursts out of the room. He opens the door in front of her to let her know that he is leaving. Additionally, he does not intend to cause any further inconvenience to anyone. Makino is observed listening in on their conversations, while experiencing an anxiety attack as he is leaving. What should she do? She wonders to herself. Anazaki is going to depart. Anazaki expresses his gratitude to Saya for locating his suitcase and those shoes for him, as it appeared that he was wandering around barefoot. Saya, who appears to be disappointed, inquires as to whether or not he is actually leaving, to which Anazaki confirms. Yasuka stomps out of the room and demands that Anazaki remain still. She implores him to pause for a moment and think about what he is doing. She inquires as to whether or not he could simply engage in masturbation, as he turns around and apologizes to her. Instantaneously, a young lady yells out to him. It is Makino's requirement that she accompany him on his journey. Anazaki finds himself taken aback by the process. Even if she continues to remain at this location, she yells that there is no hope here. She yells out, pleading with him. Anazaki refutes her claims, claiming that he is not capable of providing protection to another person while he is still engaged in the quest for Yuna. Maybe she ought to remain in this location, where it is secure, and look for a different glimmer of hope. Makino, who appears to be in a state of anger, murmurs under her breath that she knew. She was aware that he was going to make such a statement. The sudden scream that everyone hears captures everyone's attention. Anazaki looks around, wondering if what he had heard was actually a scream. Yasuka rushes towards the sound and yells that the scream originated from the gym. Makino responds by pointing out that the gym is where everyone sleeps. Yasuka throws open the doors to the gym and yells out to everyone, asking what is happening. Arisu suddenly appears in front of her, bleeding from her mouth. The females
are being subjugated to unimaginable depravity and eating by a group of creatures that are located within the gym. One of them rushes straight at Makino, and Anasaki yells at her to get away from her. He then grabs Makino by the arms and yells at them to leave as soon as they can. He then sprays the creatures with a fire hydrant that he has crammed his hands around. As they proceed, they find that the school has been overrun by zombies. Arisu mutters in agony that others have passed away. Every single person was killed. She braces herself, and Saya makes an effort to reassure her. Considering that the beasts are able to infiltrate the school to such a significant degree, Yasuka makes the observation that there appears to be a pattern to the way that they move. Following that, it may be deduced that this particular school will be entirely within their operational zone. Where are they going to go? On the other hand, what will become of them? Due to the fact that she is terrified, Makino follows Anazaki very closely behind him. She begs him not to abandon him, because the secure location they had mentioned does not exist anymore. Without school, she is unable to communicate with him. There is no way that those girls will be able to survive in this environment. During the time when she is telling him that he is their sole remaining hope, her eyes are filled with tears. Suddenly, he turns to her and instructs her to leave the location for the time being, before the entire area entirely becomes swamped with people. Saya brings up the fact that even if they were successful in escaping, they would still be without any type of food, drink, or... She gets cut off by Arisu, who asks if she is thinking of going back in there to get the supplies. Makino wonders that if the food is an issue, then they should be alright. To which Yasuka shouts at her to wait, and asks if she intends to take all the food with her. Makino apologizes, but thanks to her, they are saved now. Right? Arisu reaches for a tissue to wipe away her tears as she makes the observation that, setting that aside, how did that group of creatures manage to get inside the school in the first place? It is remarkable that such a big number of them invaded the school all at once. One could almost say that they were led there by something. Outside, the creatures discover Makino's belongings. She clings to Anazaki as she insists that they accompany her. She inquires as to whether or not he is considering abandoning them. The question appears rhetorical, as she says, "Right?" Clearly distressed, the other girls glance at him with a look of dismay. When it comes to picking a choice, Anasaki is having a difficult time. "I'm going to search for Yuna. If you want to follow me, then feel free to do whatever you please." Anezaki is leading the group as they make their way outside while carrying a weapon. They are all dressed in black vests with hoods for protection. Saya is perplexed by the fact that ever since the beasts invaded the school, they had been following Anezaki in search of his girlfriend. However, they don't really have any other choice because this is the only way for them to survive in this world that is rife with beasts. There is no other way. Despite the fact that she is unable to predict what will occur in the future, she is determined to have faith in the appearance of Anazaki and that it will be a glimmer of hope that will bring them salvation. Makino, who is still holding on to her clothing, inquires of Yasuka whether or not it is truly possible to conceal their odor with only this amount of clothing. In response, Yasuka says that she honestly doesn't know, as she has never done anything similar to this before. However, she acknowledges that this is the best they can do for the time being. They are silenced by Anasaki. There are beasts that are roaming around on the main streets. They are informed by him that this path is quite hazardous, and as a result, they must locate to an alternative route to get through. She tells him that there are probably even more of them over there, and she asks him if he is sure that he wants to head over there. Yakuza asks Anazaki cautiously if Yuna's house is in the middle of the city. After all, there are probably even more over there. He responds by saying that he will go wherever it takes him in order to locate Yuna, and if she is still alive, he needs to know where she is located. While he is thinking about her, he asks her to wait for him and assures her that he will be there right away. Saya gives Arisu a quick glance and inquires about her well-being. Arisu appears to be in a state of discomfort and appears to be prepping herself. Saya apologizes to the group and asks if they could take a brief break. Makino yells at her, telling her that everyone else is exhausted as well, and that she should stop complaining about having to deal with it. Nevertheless, Anazaki assures them that everything is fine and that they should take a brief break. An instantaneous shift occurs in Makino's demeanor as she clings to Anazaki, assuring him that she will do whatever he says and that she will fulfill his every request. A short while later, they are still in the back alley, and Makino, who is looking very determined, is thinking to herself that she will never leave Anasaki's side.
She is convinced that one day she will be able to accompany him to the world where there are no flares or beasts. Yasuka sighs as she points out that it is really hot today, and she wonders if the sun is getting hotter again. Anazaki and Yasuka are looking forward near the main street. Yasuka is looking forward along the main street. The question that Anazaki poses to her as she observes the sun is, how significant of an impact did the flare have on the Earth? The response that she gives is that nobody really knows how much of an effect the flare had, because it was taken by complete surprise. On the television, the newscasters expressed their concerns regarding the sun's impact on a number of different regions. There have been reports of observations regarding the possibility of a solar flare, although it was impossible for anyone to have anticipated it would turn out in this manner. It all took place in such a short amount of time that the sun suddenly flashed brightly. Following that, a severe heat wave struck the entire planet. The next thing she knew, she was unconscious and passed out. She had no idea how much time had passed. It could have been a few minutes or a week. When she finally regained consciousness, she discovered that all hell had broken loose. She had to flee for her life because there were beasts everywhere. They were attacking and assaulting women. Her phone was unable to receive any radio signals. And after that would be like pouring salt on an open wound. The ground began to cave in. A single flare caused the entire world to be turned upside down, and no one knows what actually took place. From that day forward, the sun shone with a menacing light, and one day it could be summer, the next it could be winter. All of this occurred because of the flare. On the subject of the end of the world, Anasaki is curious. In response to this, Yasuka denies it because she does not want it to take place. She then casts a glance in the direction of the girl's back behind her and quickly clings to Anasaki. She implores him to rethink his decision to donate his sperm to that woman. When she reaches his pants, she tells him that he does not need to do anything, and she whispers in his ears that he could just close his eyes and leave everything to her. Saya approaches them and asks Yasuka what's wrong, to which she nervously responds that it's nothing. Anasaki orders them to continue. He wants to get to Yuna's house before night falls, so he wants them to keep going. Saya shouts at her that it's enough, and that he doesn't want to hear her talking about this ever again. With a determined expression on her face, Yasuka looks at Anazaki from behind. She made a promise to herself that she would not give up quickly. While they are walking onward, Arisu stops to look around and asks Saya what's wrong. Saya notices that Arisu is breathing heavily and suddenly stops looking around. Saya is taken aback when Arisu looks up and responds that it's possible that her brother is present at that school. Arisu tells her that he was at school at the time of the flare, and to think that she will never see him again for the rest of her life. She is asked to wait a moment by Saya, who is curious as to whether or not she is revealing to them that she intends to go in search of her brother. Makino yells out, wondering if she has lost her mind and if she wants to go look for him. Then she goes looking for him all by herself. Is that correct? She inquires of Anasaki. The response that he gives is that he's being truthful with them. There is no way that a young child like him could survive in a world like this for 3 months. Even if he did manage to survive, he would have turned into a beast by that point. The fact that they are standing right outside of his school makes it possible for Arisu to ignore him, even though she acknowledges him. Makino tells her to be quiet and calls her a fool. She also tells her that she is not the only one who has lost family members. Makino also tells her that she does not want to take part in any of this because she believes it is pointless, and she demands that she is allowed to leave immediately. Makino immediately turns around and asks Anasaki to wait for her. Anasaki, on the other hand, agrees to it, but only on the condition that they immediately turn back if the situation becomes too dangerous. The bodies of children were dispersed throughout the structure of the school. In the end, Anazaki wonders if this is how the entire world will turn out. Having heard something inside, Yasuka calls out to Anazaki as she points to a locked place. Arisu takes a look inside and discovers 4 child zombies. Arisu yells out as she discovers her younger brother inside of this locked place. She yells at him, asking if he recognizes her, and she rushes towards him. She is shouting that he has no idea how happy she is to see him. He dashes right back, looking monstrous, and Anasaki grabs her and pushes her back, putting himself in between the two of them while hitting him with a stick. After she has sent him flying, Arisu yells out her brother's name and inquires about his well-being. Anazaki, who is making preparations to defend himself, is attacked by 3 other creatures that jump right at him. At the moment when one of the 3 is about to launch an assault, His eyes are bright and beautiful, and he brings Anazaki down to the ground. Anazaki is thinking that he is unable to bring himself to kill them. Then, all of a sudden, someone yells to move out of the way and asks who is there. The childish creatures notice that food is being thrown into the air, and they immediately grab the food and begin eating it. At that moment, the unknown lady asks them what they are doing there. Anazaki grabs Arisu and pulls her out of the situation while she is attempting to refuse to leave without her brother. Following that, the blonde lady locks the childish creatures, and she explains that she believes that this was a risky move. It is important to note that the children have a preference for sweets over meat. Additionally, their brains have not yet developed to the same level of those of a grown man. While Anazaki is inquiring about her identity, the lady suddenly realizes that the person in front of her is a male. She wonders if they still have some kindness left in them. At the same time, he is asking about her, and she tells her that he is not like those creatures. Saya tells her not to panic. The lady is perplexed as to how he did not lose his mind throughout the entire ordeal. The next thing that Isekai'd does is inquire about the origin of those snacks, and the lady responds by stating that she is actually staying in a snack factory that is located nearby. Arisu then wonders if that means that the person who kept her brother locked in was her, to which she also confirms. Makino suddenly follows her around and asks if she could indicate that she has food, to which she confirms. Arisu then confirms that she is the same person who kept her brother locked in. She tells her that she too is a child like them, and that she keeps them there. She also tells her that sometimes she gives them corpses of the beasts in snacks. The group then asks her why she is doing this kind of thing. In a resolute response, she stated, "Why wouldn't I? The children are the future, and if there is a chance they can return to their normal state and regain their consciousness, then it is possible that humanity can begin the process of repopulating the world once more." Anasaki is curious about the children returning to their normal routine, and the lady takes note of this while offering them the opportunity to visit the factory. She tells them that the factory is a secure location where they can rest, and that there is plenty of food there as well. Since she does not know where they are going, she tells them that it is almost nighttime, and that it is not safe to walk outside at night. In spite of the fact that she is grateful for the offer, Anazaki tells her that they must hurry up and leave, while Yasuka is pleading with him to hold on. She explains to her that she may believe that they are acting in a self-centered manner, but urges her to take a close look at them without delay. Anazaki is informed by her that he might be okay despite the fact that he is a man, but she also mentions that the women need to take a short break. She then addresses Anazaki directly, requesting that he keep his identity as a man a secret for the time being. The lady then confirms that the matter has been resolved and instructs them to follow her. What exactly does she mean when she says, "just for the meantime"? Anasaki is curious. Saya makes sure Arisu is okay and encourages her to get up and accompany her to the house so they can rest. Arisu, on the other hand, begs them to consent to her staying with her brother for a short period of time, assuring them that she will meet up with them at a later time. She acknowledges them and promises to come back inside before it gets dark outside as they leave. They tell her to make sure she comes inside before it gets dark outside. Inside of the factory that makes snacks, she tells Yasuka that she used to work here, and at the moment, including the surviving staff of the factory, there were approximately 50 women taking refuge in there. Prior to the explosion, the majority of the staff consisted of women, and they were able to keep the damage to a minimum. They had just about everything they needed to survive, including water, food, and safe shelter. Yasuka points out that it is quite large, and the lady tells her that she used to work here. There is still a chance. While they are getting closer to the gate, she demands that one of the women who are inside to open it for them. The woman with the dark hair introduces herself as Hatake. She informs her that she was taking so much longer than expected, and they began to become concerned. She then inquires about the individuals who were accompanying her along. In her response, Hatake states that she will provide an explanation at a later time. In addition, she inquires about the health of her daughter. The woman with the dark hair tells her that it will most likely be tonight, which comes as a surprise to Hatake. Yasuka inquires about what happened to Hatake's daughter, to which Hatake responds that she is pregnant and that the baby is almost due. Saya and the others are taken aback by the news that there is a baby, and Hatake reveals that the baby is roughly on the verge of being born. This baby is a baby boy. Hatake is approached by a member of the staff who addresses her as boss. The staff member informs Hatake that her daughter is calling out for her, to which Hatake responds that she is on her way and demands that the other girls come and meet her daughter. Hatake asks her daughter if she is okay and calls her by the name of Sayori. As they enter the room, her daughter calls out for her mother, and Hatake responds by saying that she is. After confirming that she is fine, Sayori inquires about the individuals who are accompanying her. Hatake responds by stating that the individuals in question are travelers who have evaded capture from a school located in the neighboring town. During the conversation, one of the women who is accompanying Sayori shares with Hatake that Sayori's labor pains are increasing in intensity, and that the baby is expected to be delivered in the near future. Sayori expresses her fear to her mother. Her mother gives her reassurance by assuring her that everything will be okay and that she is certain of it. There will be no problems at all. They leave to another room, and Hatake tells them that they can use that room, and that she will also bring them some food later. Yasuka then asks Hatake if she truly believes that the boy will be okay. The group looks on with a slight sense of concern. Hatake takes a brief moment to pause before revealing to her that although she would like to believe that, the truth is that she is not sure. After that, she discusses the reason why she has brought them along with her, which was due to the fact that they were accompanied by a male friend. She informs them that all of the women working in the factory are devoid of hope, and that if Sayori's birth does not go as planned, then her daughter and everyone else will undoubtedly fall into despair, which may cause them to lose their will to live. However, if they are aware that there are still normal men in this world, then they will be able to continue living and look towards the future with hope. While she continues to talk with her daughter Sayori, Anasaki suddenly bursts out and yells at her to stop what she is doing. She tells her that she understands how she is feeling, but that he is not going to have sexual relations with anyone. She is informed by him that he will never engage in such a vile behavior again. Hatake acknowledges that he is in his own situation, and is aware that he will not be required to take any action. She also explains that the mere presence of a typical male will be sufficient to ignite the flame of hope. She then addresses Makino, and asks her if she thinks that Arisu isn't taking too much time, and she wonders if she thinks that maybe something could have happened to her. The girls look outside as Saya makes the observation that the sun is beginning to set. The response that Makino gives is that she has no way of knowing what that girl, who is a delinquent, is doing, but she is certain that she will return once she is hungry. After pointing out that she has been behaving in an odd manner ever since they left the school, Yasuka suggests that she refrain from saying things like that and inquires as to whether or not something is wrong. She tells them that she used to act like a good girl while they were in the school, but she never actually cared about any of them in the first place, and that this is who she really is. Makino responds by wondering what Yasuka is even talking about and asking what she means by normal and strange. She says that those terms have no meaning in this messed up world, and she further explains that she claims to have always been like this. Makino retorts immediately, telling Saya that she should stop calling her an ugly ass, a goody two-shoes, and a four-eyed bitch. Saya is in a state of disbelief and tells Makino at the same time that she cannot believe what she is saying, as she makes her way out of the room in search of Arisu. Saya's feelings are hurt by this. During the time that Saya is putting on her cloak and walking out of the room, she is thinking to herself that she understands how Makino feels about the word normal, and how it doesn't have any significance in the world that they live in today. However, she believes that the reason she desires to live a normal life and to live like a proper human being more than ever before is because of the world being like this. As she approaches the location where they left Arisu, she calls out to her and tells her that it is about time they return. The door, which had been locked, is now wide open, and Saya is curious as to why this is the case. Inside, Arisu is seen with a rope around her little brother. His sight shocks Saya as she tries to deny what she has just seen. Arisu informs her that it couldn't be helped, and that it had been done to save him. Saya shouts at Arisu, asking her what she thinks she is doing, but Arisu apologizes, saying that she doesn't want to lose anyone anymore, such as her friends and family, and talks about Hatake, saying that the children might be able to go back to normal, and that her little brother, who turned and looked at her when she called out to him, she states that he definitely still remembers her. Saya is taken aback when she declares that she is going to bring her younger brother along with her, and she will not go anywhere without him. Such a statement comes as a result of her determination. At the factory, Makino opens the door and asks when the food is going to arrive. She also mentions that they are starving out there. However, she notices a group of women talking to each other. Yasuka explains that everyone is suddenly busy as they realize what is going to happen. Sayori can be heard yelling from behind the door. When it comes to birth, Hatake is helping out inside. Sayori exerts a great deal of effort throughout the process, and when it finally comes out, it is not moving. The process is excruciating. In response to Hatake's urging the infant to maintain his grip, the infant suddenly allows its mouth to open. A monstrous scream roars through the atmosphere. The infant is a monstrous creature. It smiles in a satanic manner. The women are in a state of distress due to the situation. The ladies begin to scream, not wanting to live in this kind of world anymore because there is no hope or future. And it is all over. Suddenly, one of the women stabs herself in the neck, ending her life. Sayori is in denial that the baby is a monster. She tries to reach out to everyone, though she dies. The women start screaming one after the other. After observing the infant, Hatake removes the umbilical cord from the baby. The moment she leaves, she attracts Anazaki's attention. He inquires about how things went, and she insists that he accompany her. He understands the significance of this, and she begs him to accompany her. Even though he walks right by her and claims that he understands, he makes it abundantly clear to everyone that he will not have sexual relations with anyone for any reason. Hatake takes out a knife and leaps straight at Anasaki. He barely dodges straight as she shouts at her, wondering what she is doing. She brings the knife close to him, and she tells him that her daughter is dead and that she doesn't care about this shitty world anymore. Now that she has lost everything, she is wondering why she even cares about something like giving hope to other people right now. She is claiming that there is no point, and that everyone can go and die for all she cares about. She is also demanding that Sayori wait for her on the other side, and that her mother will come and join her very soon. Finally, she stabs him. However, it turns out that Yasuka is the one who stabbed Hatake in the neck. She is looking absolutely furious as she yells that if Hatake wanted to die, then she should just go and die all by herself. She is also claiming that Anasaki is hers, and that she is not allowed to take him. Anasaki grabs her from the arms and demands that she stop stabbing her. Hatake is already dead. He then notices something as he glances back at her. She continues to stab her repeatedly, vowing that she will not allow anyone to take him away from her. Each of the following numbers: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. The eyes of 15 different women are fixed on his very being. Anasaki then yells at everyone to calm down, and that Hatake was the one who attacked them first, and that Yasuka was just trying to save him. They respond by pointing out that no one cares about Hatake, and that the baby doesn't matter either. Makino, who is nervous, urges them to hold on and just to be clear that she didn't do anything, and that Yasuka was the one who did that. They state that he killed their boss, Hatake. Makino once again demands that they hold on, and that they should just be clear that she didn't do anything. Makino nervously demands that they hold on and just be clear that it was Yasuka who did that. It is clear that the order is to capture him as their new hope, and they are keeping a close eye on him like a hawk. The women's thoughts were clearly audible. It's a man. A man. How sane is he exactly? While the ladies were waiting, Makino asked them to hold on and inquired about their request. While they were making a frantic effort to capture Anasaki, the command was issued with a sense of urgency. Now that it has been established that Sayori's child is a monstrous being, the only hope that remains is for this young boy. Aoi joins them and threatens him with her weapon, while simultaneously emphasizing the importance of him immediately ceasing his behavior. The assertion is considered to be pointless. He demands that they wait while he tries to tell them something, but they lock the door on him, leaving him alone by himself. They tie him up, open a door to a dark place that they do not know about, and throw him inside. It is clear that the boardroom was buzzing with excitement and anticipation. What steps should be taken in regard to Anazaki Satoru? There is a rumor going around that he has been reincarnated. According to the statements made by the young women who were present with him, there is a widespread belief that he has been reincarnated from a different physical reality. It is proposed that he be offered the position of leader of their group, particularly because he comes from an occurrence with no flair. Considering that he comes from a world that is not affected by the devastating flare, it seems as though he is a completely ordinary boy, doesn't it? As the girl fills in for the chief, she expresses her confidence in Anazaki's ability to take charge of the situation and bring order to the location. On the other hand, Aoi lets out a loud exclamation to convey his surprise. She is astounded and irritated by the situation. Explain the rationale behind his selection as the winner. Is the fact that he is a male the only reason? That assertion seems to be rather naive and does not demonstrate any intelligence. What was the cause of Anazaki's sudden rise to this position? What is going on and why? Throughout history, women have always given up their autonomy in this manner. They follow the men in a submissive manner. She is interested in learning the results of a particular occurrence. There was a disrespectful attitude on the part of men toward them. Not only did their arrogance continue to grow, but they also started to look down on them, which was contrary to what was expected. Others made fun of them and ridiculed their intelligence, which led to their being belittled and ridiculed. A world was crafted that was tailored solely to meet the requirements and gratify their inclinations. Compendium of laws covering politics, laws, businesses, infrastructure, ideology, and education. Each and every decision was made from the point of view of a male. The only option available to women was to accept it. Mankind has now regressed to the level of beasts. This moment has finally come. When women are given the authority to make all of their decisions, a new world will emerge. Makino taunts Yasuka by asking to think that she would become a murderer. She continues by calling her a failure of a teacher, and she makes a guess as to why she outed herself when she tried to do indecent things with Satoru in the infirmary. In another scene, Makino and Yasuka are sitting down together. Makino teases Yasuka by telling her so. Unexpectedly, the doors open with a swing. In what is in Aoi's possession, it would appear that Makino is both startled and perplexed. As she throws her teacher under the bus, she begs for assistance even as she does so. It is her assertion that she is just a typical high school daughter. Yasuka expresses concern for Anazaki's well-being and demands an explanation for his current state of affairs. She makes requests to be released, and Yasuka also expresses demand for an explanation. Anazaki Satoru's responsibility has been identified after some deliberation and discussion has taken place. Additionally, he will provide them with sperm whenever it is required. The response that Makino and Yasuka gave was stuttering, and appeared to be a mixture of surprise and confusion. What is being asked of Anazaki is whether or not he will follow the instructions that have been given to him. It is not clear what the potential repercussions are for him in the event that he chooses to disobey. With two naked women, Aoi introduces him to the audience. Anazaki, while he was expressing his disbelief, his voice shook as he was taken aback by the surprise of the news. These women are anticipating that he will supply them with sperm. The unfortunate miscarriage they experienced was caused by the collapse of the world. In spite of this, they continue to harbor the hope of one day being able to hold their young children in their arms. Because of this, they offered their services as volunteers to examine the viability of his sperm. Anazaki yells out in a frantic manner, requesting a brief pause in the action. However, the women insist that he takes off his clothes. One of them, Anazaki yelled out, requesting that they immediately cease their actions. Nevertheless, they do not pay attention and remove his pants. After that, Aoi yanks him back and is successful in convincing the girls to do it. He implores for assistance with a voice that is filled with fear and desperation as the girls try to seduce him further. Anazaki is pleading with them in a desperate manner. All of a sudden, Yasuka yells out his name and demands that he withdraw his resistance. Her disgust was expressed by a nonchalant manner by Makino, who exhibited a strong reaction. Anazaki is informed by Aoi that Makino and Yasuka, two individuals, have made the decision to comply with the instructions that they have communicated to them. Anazaki is asked to share his sperm, regardless of the circumstances, to which he finds surprising and responds with disbelief. He is asked to do so regardless of the circumstances. Aoi, who appeared to be frustrated and impatient, told them to stop wasting time, but they continue to do so. She is demanding that they turn him on because he does not appear to be able to get an erection. Yasuka then suggests that the consideration of Anazaki's feelings should be taken into account, even if it's just a little bit. The girls continue to try, but they are unsuccessful repeatedly. As a result of the fact that his girlfriend appeared to have little concern for his circumstances in the world from which he originated. However, Aoi insists that she maintain her silence while she is expressing her excitement and encouragement. They were exposed to the act of being used as objects for the purpose of sexual gratification by men whenever the men desired to do so. It is not necessary to take into account the emotions of other people. Anazaki is punched by her, and she demands that he get hard. She went on to say that men may experience physiological responses when they are exposed to nudity, and she is frustrated by the look that she was given by the individuals. She is curious about the statistics regarding the number of women who have been victims of such heinous acts of violence. Men are frequently portrayed in a negative light, and there are some people who have strong negative opinions about them. She states that they wait until he is weakened a little more, and once he loses the will to resist, they will do the unthinkable to him to their heart's content. She slams the door, and they leave. Yasuka suddenly stops her, and Aoi calms her down before spitting on him. Since Makino is demanding that Satoru-kun be released, she asks them to hold on for a moment while she makes her demand. They inform her that the action was carried out without procuring the required consent from the appropriate parties. He is not to be approached under any circumstances. Makino, who is concerned about the situation, indicates that it has exceeded acceptable boundaries. He also expresses that Satoru-kun is not as bad of a person as one might imagine him to be. In this scenario, Aoi shows her dissatisfaction by making a sound that is dismissive and by wearing a slight frown. Do you have any thoughts about the possibility of carrying his child forward? As Makino blushes, Aoi walks away from the scene. As the night progresses, Makino is seen wandering around the entire factory. Despite the fact that things are becoming more and more chaotic, she has not wavered in her determination to remain by Satoru-kun's side for even a single second. There is a possibility that she will have reservations or inquiries regarding the events that take place while she is absent. She has made it clear that she is entirely resolute in her intention to forestall a particular outcome, and she emphasizes the significance of doing so without any reservations. Due to the fact that she is required to finish a task, while Yasuka-sensei and the other individuals have a common interest. She is taken aback when she discovers Saka peeking over the fence. Because there is no one present to keep watch, there's a sense of curiosity that arises. She makes an effort to yell out for other people to open the gate, but ultimately, she decides to hop over it herself. The door, however, turned out to be locked when Saya attempted to open it, and she was unable to shake the feeling of unease that has taken hold of her. It was as if something was off on some level. Inquiring about an event that took place at the plant, she brings up the subject. Makino sneaks up on her from behind and grabs her by the arm as she is startled. This happens all so suddenly. Saya shouts Makino's name and Makino shushes her. She then asks her to come with her. She points out that Saya was late and asks about Arisu. Saya informs her that Arisu said she couldn't leave her little brother no matter what, and they tried to stop her, but in the end, she left. Makino commented about the matter, calling Arisu a delinquent, and that she has finally lost it. Then Saya asks her if something has happened, while Makino is telling Saya that something has occurred. She lifts up Saya's shirt and reveals the situation. Saya made a comment that she had finally sewed it up once more, which caused her to become more flustered. Additionally, Makino insists that they were going to leave the location. On the other hand, before that happens, they are going to return to their precious Anazaki. After entering the room where Anazaki was being held, Aoi went inside. In a compassionate manner, she mentioned that she had been aware of the tragic event that occurred in his original world involving his girlfriend. Aoi had high hopes for Anazaki, that he would be able to comprehend a portion of the suffering that she had been through if she were to hear about her own experience. She went on to describe the upsetting events that had taken place in the previous moments. Aoi had been present at a mixer with a few employees from a reputable company where she had been invited. Nevertheless, following the mixer, she was subjected to horrifying assault by a number of men who had rendered her helpless due to the excessive amount of alcohol that she had consumed. A series of assaults were committed against her by 3 men, one after the other, in rapid succession. After the fact, they had the audacity to assert that it was a consensual relationship, despite the fact that she had initially placed her faith in their honesty and believed that they were decent people. The response she received from those who she had confided in about the incident was nothing more than the recommendation that she pursue legal action. However, she discovered that she was unable to pursue legal action because society, which was governed by laws that were formulated by men, they did not provide her with the support she needed, despite the fact that she conveyed her compassion for Anazaki. She made it abundantly clear that her trust in him as a man was not assured. In the past, even before the current state of the world, humanity had already demonstrated its savage nature. As soon as she leaves, she gives one of the girls instructions to keep a close eye on Anazaki, and she receives a confirmation in response to her instruction. An additional young lady approaches Aoi in an effort to get her attention. While she is considering the best way to proceed, She inquires about Sayori's baby, as well as the bodies of the chief and her daughter. She is taken aback by Aoi's response, in which she asserts that she is free to handle the situation in any manner that she deems appropriate. The resolute tone that Aoi uses effectively conveys her indifference seemingly towards the deceased, highlighting the significance of moving forward regardless of the circumstances. It is with a forceful push that she leaves, as Aoi makes her way towards a group of young women. The atmosphere is filled with a cacophony of voices that can be heard downstairs. In an effort to satisfy her insatiable curiosity, she makes inquiries regarding the origin of all the commotion and endeavors to discover the specifics of what took place. Saya has been observed with her shirt unbuttoned and appearing to be in a state of agitation. When Aoi thinks back to the time when this girl had come to the school to pick up her friend, she's now curious about the condition of the clothes that she is wearing. It is mentioned that Saya asserts that she was attacked by a creature while she was exploring the grounds of the plant with her friends. It is clear that Aoi is fuming as she emphasizes the potential problems that could occur in the event that those creatures are successful in infiltrating the building. She's adamant that everyone should be informed to conduct a comprehensive inspection of the plant, and her subordinates are in agreement with her. She calls out to them, reminding them to give their full attention to the first floor and check to see if the windows are still boarded. It is her recommendation that she refrain from going outside and instead wait until morning to carry out the ground inspection. Saya makes her way upstairs, her thoughts preoccupied with the mission of assembling all the survivors on the first floor before moving to the upper level, where Satoru is being held captive. As she gets closer to the elevator, she makes eye contact with a watchful blonde woman who is standing guard. Saya makes an effort to strike up a conversation with her, and the woman asks if something is wrong. She mentions that she heard noises downstairs, and she is looking for an explanation for the commotion. The blonde woman is left bewildered as the woman stumbles over her words in an effort to divert attention away from herself during the conversation. Unexpectedly, Makino appears before us, brandishing a bat. Through a swift swing, she renders the woman incapable of moving, seizes her weapon, and drags her into the room. After that, Makino goes ahead and invites Anazaki to come in and open the door for him. They hear Satoru's voice, which is filled with a sense of desperation as he calls out to them. Makino explains to him that despite the fact that it was a terrifying circumstance, she still came to save him. The person has made it clear that they have a strong desire to depart from the current location. Afterward, Makino urges Saya to stop squandering their time and offer some direction. The response that Saya gives is a hesitant yes. While Makino is carrying Anazaki, she engages in conversation with him. Is Satoru in good health? They convey their compassion for the person in question. The manner in which they treated him was beyond description. Saya observes a group of young women in the hallways, who are likely having a conversation with one another. To what extent is the case? Then, after that, she then turns her attention to the two people and tells them that the path they are contemplating is not a viable alternative. She addresses one of them as Makino-san as she does so. There are people present in this location. The three young women have a conversation about the situation, during which they express their belief that Aoi, whom they refer to in a derogatory manner, is not managing the survivors in an effective manner. Taking into consideration their actions, it would appear that they are completely unconcerned about the commotion that is taking place downstairs. The sounds of footsteps approaching from behind capture Makino's attention and cause them to pay attention. A look of surprise and frustration crosses her face as she quickly turns her head in the opposite direction. A person comes up behind and approaches. As soon as the door is opened, Saya talks to the individual who is standing in front of her. On the other hand, when the door is opened, a woman is found slouched over and muttering to herself. In any case, it would be wise to find a place and hide. Makino is taken aback, her voice filled with anger, though Anazaki asks in disbelief. Are you... Is this a serious matter? There's another person in here as well. With a knife in hand, she sternly demands silence from her. The user threatens violence, demanding the other person's compliance. However, the other person pleads for a moment to speak. Anazaki comes to a halt. The user exclaims in surprise, their voice filled with shock and disbelief at the revelation. The user expressed surprise with a loud exclamation. Anazaki tries to communicate with them. After all, this is Yuna's mother. Though Yuna's mother, after barely recognizing Satoru, freaks out. Anazaki panics, his eyes widening in shock. She lets out a piercing scream, clutching her face tightly. The girl with glasses urges them to flee, her voice filled with urgency. It seems that she has completely lost her composure. They suggest running. This situation is not favorable. Others will arrive upon hearing the scream. Anazaki says, "Hold on!" They are bringing her along with them. The girls are taken aback, expressing their confusion with a questioning noise. Makino was taken aback by the sudden turn of events, unable to believe what was happening. She will only hold them back. Anazaki, though, suggests that she might know where Yuna is.
Anazaki-san.
Makino, exclaiming in frustration. She utters a strong expletive. Anazaki expresses remorse for his actions, acknowledging that he is responsible for the death of Yuna's father. He expresses his desire to at least allow Yuna to be reunited with her mother. Makino responds with a curt "fine." As she opens the door, Yasuka's presence in the hallway surprises them. A loud and urgent call echoes through the air, demanding attention. The urgency in the voice is palpable, leaving no room for doubt that something important is happening. The name being called is repeated with intensity, emphasizing the urgency and importance of the situation.
Anazaki! Makino! And Saya!
It's Yasuka-sensei. Makino, however, encourages her to run with them. After all, she has joined the other side now. They dash towards the stairs. However, Aoi is already there. The situation is escalating. Confrontation after confrontation, they are now chased towards the top of the roof. Clearly, from this tall of a height, they could not jump from here. On the rooftop, the individuals discover that they are surrounded by women, and that they are trapped there. Yasuka's eyes plead for Anazaki to stay. She begs for him to reconsider. For the sake of humanity, he has to share his heritage. Satoru, though, rebuttals. He inquires as to what this kind of situation would look like if the roles were reversed. If there was one woman among thousands of men. Aoi intervenes. She screams, "This is different. A man can't be hurt by something like this." She threatens him with one more chance to become their machine. However, something grabs their attention. There is a fire downstairs. Others run towards the rooftop with them. They're coughing from the excessive amount of smoke. The prospect of fire is confirmed by these women. An offshoot group of their own community seems to have gathered and start a fire inside the building. Hope seems to have been drained from these women as they stare at the corpses of the poor victims prior. The women are talking downstairs, all in agreement that Aoi is not the proper leader that they need. She has taken in those who have just killed their previous chief after all. It is up to them as individuals to choose what is right and wrong now. Anazaki is not their future. So, they plan to put an end to everything. They fall further into despair as they question how long it would even take, even if they were to have children. How long would it take for these generations to rebuild the world that they had lost? There is no hope, one woman realizes, as she pours gasoline all over herself. She inquires if others would join her. She comforts them. A desperate situation indeed. They take solace in the fact that, with Anazaki, perhaps they could be reincarnated as well. In a world far better than this. Aoi arrives. She panics. She realizes how stupid all of this is. She runs towards them, though the flames engulf all of the victims. One last moment of solace and comfort is provided for all of them. They gather their hands together, a ring around the previous victims, and together, they burn. Aoi slams her fists into the floors. She calls them idiots and dumbasses. After so much loss, she wonders why they would give up. She admits that with this move, they have lost to the beasts, their voices mocking them. At this rate, what can they do? The whole building is going to be engulfed in flames. What is this, though? A ladder seems to be descending from the building. Someone put this here. The anonymous voice calls out,
Hurry! Climb down!
In a panic, they don't care about who this mysterious benefactor is. They rush down the ladders as soon as they can. Seemingly just in time, too, as the building explodes. The mysterious benefactor makes another comment about at least saving some people. We pan to see her face. She smiles confidently at them. She seems to be dressed as a nurse. Others are confused as to who she could possibly be. She clearly wears a name badge that addresses her as a nurse at a nearby hospital. She confirms that she does work at that hospital. She heard about their situation prior. The person who tipped her off was Mitsuru, Aoi marches forward. She confronts her. She tells her that they had sent several suicide missions there, and how not a single group had returned. Aoi remarks that they had thought all along that this hospital was the beast's nest. The nurse simply smiles at them. Anazaki inquires of the nurse whether she had traveled from the campus hospital in the neighboring town in order to search for him. The nurse responds with a kind smile. Makino then inquires as to whether or not the hospital provides food and whether or not it is a secure place to sleep. Saya asks with trepidation, stating that none is more important, while also inquiring about Arisu's well-being. Makino mocks her and tells her that more importantly, that she needs to stop acting like a goody two-shoes. Saya's question is met with Makino's mockery. They are met with a resounding affirmative response from the nurse. The nurse exclaims as she stares at the woman, which prompts Anazaki to ask if something is wrong. Though she laughs it off, she denies it and tells him, of course, as she promises that she will do everything that she can to help Yuna's mother. Anazaki tells her that he wants to help Yuna's mother and asks her if she will treat him if he goes to the hospital. Anazaki then tells her that he wants to help Yuna's mother and then asks if she will. He then goes to the hospital. While Aoi is yelling at her subordinates, she's asking them to wait and asking if they didn't hear what she said. She says that they had dispatched several search parties in the hospital, but none of them have ever returned. The girl with the black hair responds that this is correct, and that, in addition to the fact that this is suspicious that a solitary woman could have made it this far at night, Saya whimpers and asks where they should go. In the end, they come to the decision, before the men notice the fire and gather together. Yasuka apologizes to Anazaki, a student, for putting him in a difficult situation in order to achieve her goal. Makino mocks her, wondering if she thinks that what she did was excusable, and that she tied up a student and beat him. She calls her a complete failure of a teacher, and that she is a complete failure of a human being. Meanwhile, they join forces and cloak themselves as they make their way to the hospital. Yasuka is given reassurance by Anazaki, who tells her that she should not be concerned and that it is pointless to think about what is right and wrong in this world. He also tells her not to hold any blame for her or the people that survived the plant. Additionally, he begs her not to forget that he does not live in the same world or even this world, and that his sole objective is to search for Yuna. If she gets in the way of him attaining his goal, then he will not forgive her. This causes them to be startled. Saya pauses as she thinks that she is scared, and feels as though the extreme darkness might devour even their hearts. The nurse calls out to them as she leads, asking them what is wrong and encouraging them not to get lost. Saya is concerned that she might be able to get lost. Soon after, they arrive at the hospital, located on the campus of Kyonan College. Saya addresses Anazaki and tells him that she has a bad feeling about this, though he responds with a let go as they open the door. The nurse informs them that the front entrance is barricaded and asks them to come the way that she is signaling at. Saya acknowledges that she has a bad feeling about this. The sight has taken Anazaki by surprise. A sophisticated lobby that is completely illuminated, unlike anything in the post-apocalyptic world. The group is completely taken aback by the fact that the electricity appears to be functioning perfectly, and the girls inside are casually chatting it up with each other. She tells them that the generator and electrical equipment in the underground shelter miraculously avoided the fatal effects of the flare that included electromagnetic waves, so they can still work. The reason for this is that a certain person found them and fixed them for them. Anazaki wonders what she means by a certain person, though someone starts to approach them as they notice that the nurse has brought them. They thank her and address her by the name of Mitsui. Anazaki turns to the nurse and asks how they were able to get the light to work. She then tells him that they were able to restore the light. This individual is a tall man, and yes, he is a man in this world, just like Anazaki. It is he who introduces himself as Igarashi, the leader of this nation, and he tells them that he has been waiting for them. He responds by asking him if he is Anazaki, and pointing out that a particular person told him everything there is to know about him. Anazaki is curious about what he means by country. As Arisu approaches, Saya rushes straight at her, relieved to see that she is not in any danger. She then inquires about the health of her brother, to which she responds by informing her that he is currently sleeping in a sick room. Anazaki inquires of the man, why is he safe despite the fact that he is a man? He inquires as to whether or not the man was reincarnated from another world like him. Igarashi gives him a firm no in response. He then adds, "Probably not," which causes Anazaki to wonder what he means by probably. Mitsui goes on to say that he is the miracle man who did not lose his mind as a result of the flare, and that he is also their savior. Anazaki is curious about what they mean when they say that he is their savior. Igarashi then asserts that this is an exaggeration. Though, all of a sudden, a loud beeping catches everyone's attention as panic takes place. Makino shouts, wondering what this is, and a lady calls out to Igarashi, telling him that several men have broken into the second ward's courtyard. Yasuka panics, but Igarashi tells her not to worry. The monsters start to approach. One of them is Shin, attached with the rope around his neck as he laughs. Yasuka and Aoi scream as they shout monster, but Igarashi tells them not to be afraid as they won't attack them. He controls them completely. The group wonders what he means by control, and Mitsui tells them that she is able to walk to the plant because they protected her. Igarashi yells at the monster to get moving, and then asks Anazaki if he would be willing to assist them. The men begin to rush at the group of girls, but one of them, the monsters, hits them. Igarashi encourages the ladies to take a step back. He then takes a deep breath just before yelling, "Go." The monsters make a large scratching noise, and then they grab one of the beastmen and tear him in half. Yasuka is taken aback by the fact that they are attacking each other, but Igarashi asks her if she is referring to the men as beasts. According to him, that is an appropriate name. He goes on to explain that the solar flare caused a catastrophic damage to male chromosomes, and now that their genetic information has been altered, it is possible that men are no longer human. Among these men, some of them had their cells divide so quickly that they turned into giants. Moreover, they are referred to as idiosyncratic. He informs them that prior to his arrival, he had captured them in a variety of locations, studied their biology, and learned how to control them with the sounds of a specific frequency. At the moment, he is keeping 7 of them himself. And all of this is being done for the purpose of safeguarding the previous nation and those women. Anazaki is shocked. So shocked that he can't help but wonder who on earth Igarashi is. In response to Anazaki's question about how he is able to exert control over the monsters of this nature, Igarashi reveals that he does not possess any memories, which causes Anazaki to be taken aback. Igarashi informs him that he does not have any memories from the time before the flare. The first thing that he remembers is waking up all by himself in a back alley. For some reason, he was holding this whistle, which produces sounds that bring about strong reactions from the idiosyncratic. The fact that he was able to diagnose and repair the generator suggests that he is most likely an engineer by profession. However, there is no independent evidence to support this assertion. As he lifted his sleeve, he even took the name Igarashi from the tattoo that was on his arm, to reveal the number 50 on his arm, to which he has no idea what is on exactly. He listened in silence until the nurse spoke. She told him that the hospital was on the verge of destruction in the past, and that on that day, she narrowly escaped with her life. It was then that she met him. As soon as she informed him about their predicament, he took charge of them. He allowed the idealists to save them, and he constructed their nation. "Why do you refer to this hospital as a country?" he asked again and again. There was no response from Igarashi. Following that, someone called after Aoi and inquired as to whether or not she had surprised her. They stutter as their voice is shaky, and they apologize for the fact that they had thought about going back several times, but they didn't really want to, and they didn't want to leave the lights of the hospital. She replies that she can't really blame them. Aoi further inquires as to where the other members could be, while the others seem to be more nervous and on edge. They are interrupted. They must be tired, the nurse says, and she asks them if they would like to participate in a feast. Incredible food is served before them. The others stutter things like, "Can we eat this?" To which the nurse replies something like, yes, help yourself." Makino grabbed the drumsticks and thanked the nurse for the meal. They were so hungry that they were salivating. There were bread, vegetables, and even meat. Asuka is astounded as she looks at the food, wondering how something like this can exist in such a world in such a state. The nurse, however, says that it's simply because that they have a generator. They are able to preserve it. Playful bickering over whose food is whose starts to ensue. Everyone seems to be thoroughly enjoying themselves. Save for Satoru. He seems to be slightly on edge. Saya stops eating though. She seems to be downtrodden. Makino asks if she has a stomachache. However, Saya just simply wishes that they could have shared this food with the other students from the school. Her thoughtfulness is evident. Makino, however, licks her fingers and tells them that all of that is nonsense. Igarashi chimes in. As for me, I wish for everybody to live here. That's why I want to know more about you. Tell me about your background. For example, what special skills do you have? Asaka chimes in, saying that she was a teacher, and she knows plenty about biology and chemistry. Aoi says that she's good at Aikido and Kendo, and that she had also worked as a safety instructor back when she was a student. The two students there say that they don't really have any skills. Igarashi understands quite patiently. He then turns to Satoru. Satoru says that he wants Yuna's mother to be healed, and he inquires if he can stay here while the doctors do so. Igarashi completely understands, and he takes him up on that offer. Igarashi seems to understand that the meal is coming to an end. He then asks the nurse if she is willing to take the others back to their rooms. She then glances menacingly at two others. These people seem to be in rags. Satoru seems to glance back at them, though the high school students seem to be yawning contently. Satoru and Igarashi seem to have a quiet moment together. Igarashi asks Satoru if he thinks that the women enjoy this country here. He says, "It's the first time I've seen them smile. Before coming here, they weren't particularly on good terms, but it seems the lights of the hospital instantly calmed down their hearts." Igarashi replies, "I plan to expand this country and create even more safe zones. That is the least I can do as atonement, having been one of the men who had ravaged and controlled women for a long time. Atonement. Anazaki-san, would you mind helping me?" He asks if he is willing to go find more women out in the city. In return, he will be working on Yuna's mother, to see to it that she will recover. The women are showed to their rooms. There are 2 beds here and it seems to be an incredible place to be staying at. However, for the high school students, it seems that they are going to be given other rooms. The nurse hands them some clothing. It seems to be a skirt and a hair tie. The nurse gives them a smile as they ask what this really is. Makino and Saya are taking their steps down the stairs. They find themselves in a basement that seems to be a lot more worn down. As they get there, they realize that all their rooms are simply mats on the floor with a toilet in between them. They ask what this all entails. The woman who guided them there tears off her skirt. They ask what on earth she thinks she's doing, though she gives them a pair of pants. Starting today, they will be wearing these. Scared and frightened, they ask what exactly is going on here. We cut to midday of the following day. It seems that Satoru is going on another excursion out there. Aoi will be joining him. They bring an idiosyncratic with them. Igarashi gives them instructions with the whistle. All they really need to worry about is following the instructions given along with the whistle and be back within 2 days' time. These are precautions to make sure that the idiosyncratic doesn't go off on its own. Satoru asks him to make sure that Yuna's mother will be taken care of. The nurse responds, "Of course they will," she says with a menacing smile. As they leave, the two stand there watching them. The nurse gestures for Igarashi to go back inside, though he crumples onto the floor. He seems to be shaking. He's trembling everywhere. The nurse tells him to take his precautions, to breathe and do whatever it takes. Igarashi seems to calm himself. He tells her, I'm fine." The nurse is clearly concerned. The nurse's words ring out. "Let's make it a reality. Your ideal country. Let's create paradise. Here." A woman screams out from within the retirement home. She's being devoured by a creature. These creatures are pursuing the women. All of these things are happening simultaneously. Though, suddenly, a hand reaches hold of one of the men's heads, and the neck snaps in half. Worried, Anasaki asks the women if they are okay. They looked at him with quite a bit of concern. Aoi then lends them a hand, and then asks them to come with. Suddenly, more creatures attack the women they are talking to. In response, Anazaki pulled out a whistle and commanded the idiosyncratic. who crushed the creature's head with much ease. This shocked all of the women. After they killed all of the creatures, Aoi offers the women to come with, telling them that they will have friends there, as well as food and safety. In the meantime, Hanazaki seems concerned about the idiosyncratic. Aoi joins him and tells him that the women agree to come with them. However, seeing him distressed, she asks him what's wrong. He brushes it off by telling her that it's nothing. But deep down, he thinks about the idiosyncratic and wonders if Igarashi really found them by chance, to which he believes this has to be a fact. He remembers a memory in which someone asked him what was wrong and where he was going. He responded by telling them that he was going back to his original world. The girl asked him to hold on and wait for her. He makes the decision to leave, and all of a sudden, Makino wakes up and starts shouting Hanazaki's name. However, when she wakes up, she realizes that it was just a dream. She turns to Saya, who is relieving herself. Saya then asks her to turn away. Understandably so, she pulls up her pants, telling her that she couldn't hold it much longer. Makino then tells Saya that she wouldn't even want to look. She cusses and wonders why they are being treated like trash. Suddenly, the blonde girl opens the door. Makino, enraged, asks her what she is planning and why they are locked in here. The blonde girl instructs them to take the bucket of shit and come out, which confuses Saya. The blonde girl then firmly tells them that it's time for work. They head outside. They splash this bucket somewhere, which makes Makino want to puke. The blonde girl shouts at them to get a move on and tells them that there are more buckets of shit to throw out. Saya asks why she's doing this, and the blonde girl replied that they are getting fertilizer for the crops that they will eat. Makino catches a glance upward and sees the other women, who are well dressed and having fun. She also spots Arisu, who pointed out that they have failed too, which prompts Makino to ask her what the heck is going on. Arisu apologizes and tells them that she couldn't warn them, as they took her brother hostage. This surprises Makino, as she asks what she means by hostage. She then notices two ladies, to whom she thinks are the survivors from the plants, members of the earlier suicide squad. Makino approaches them and asks about Aoi, also about Hanazaki and Yasuka. The ladies turn around, took one look at her, then left. The blonde girl tells them that it's useless, pointing out that they are A-class citizens, meaning that they only speak with their peers. Makino wonders what she means by A-class. The blonde girl continues explaining that only women chosen by Igarashi are given privileges. Those who fail the selection become B-class. They become their slaves. Makino wonders what the hell she even means by that. She isn't making any sense, and why would there be a class system? To which the blonde girl responds that this hospital is a country. Later that day, when someone opens the door, they are completely taken aback by the fact that there is light. Igarashi welcomes them to their country, and as they extend an invitation to a small dinner and express gratitude to them for traveling such a long distance. After that, Igarashi speaks to Hanazaki directly and compliments him on the work that he has done throughout the day. He tells them that this new nation is now even more prosperous. However, Hanazaki observes that Igarashi's hand is trembling. Yasuka is relieved that they have returned without incidents and extends a warm welcome to them. But after that, Hanazaki inquires about the girls. Yasuka responds that she hasn't seen them since dinner, and it seems that they live in a different ward than she does. He then asks about Yuna's mother's condition, and the girls coldly answer that they don't know. They aren't nurses. They take Aoi with them as they leave. Meanwhile, Yuna's mother is being watched over by the nurse, who looks at her in a demeaning manner. She states that she cannot allow this woman to recover. The following morning, at the cafeteria where everyone is eating breakfast, Hanazaki becomes aware that Makino and Saya aren't present. While he is looking at one of the other women, he points out that she is the one who escorted them the day before. However, he is unable to locate the girls. First, he asks himself, but where are the others? Yasuka and Aoi approach him. They go to a private location. During their conversation, Yasuka expresses her belief that there is something peculiar about this hospital. During the time that he was out with Aoi, she observed that these women have not been working. How can they live in such comfort? It's odd, isn't it? Also, she has not seen Saya and Makino in a while. Whenever she asks them to let her see the girls, they avoid answering her question. She tells Anazaki that she is certain they are concealing something, and that out of all the women she escorted the day before, only the nurses are still there this morning. Aoi also mentions that the members of the suicide squad are behaving in an odd manner, now that she is beginning to think about it. It dawned on Anazaki. He recalls Igarashi asking about the backgrounds and skills of people.
Don't tell me.
They approached a woman who was reading a book by the ward. She noticed them as she informed them that she was well aware that these individuals were newcomers. She informed them that this particular area was off limits to them. They laugh it off as they tell her that they just stumbled into this ward. However, this whole thing was a distraction to give space to Anazaki to sneak into that ward to find out what they are hiding from them. As he was sneaking up, he opened the door to discover Yuna's mother, who was tied up and gagged. He removed her gag and attempted to have a conversation with her. The fact that she shouts Anasaki's name comes as a surprise to him. She yells at him, telling him to hurry and run, because if he doesn't, they will kill him, just like they killed Yuna. Anazaki shouts at Yuna's mother as he tries to make sure what he heard was right. Outside the ward, the nurse comes in contact with Aoi and Yasuka. She asks them what they are doing there. She smiles maniacally and tells them that secrets aren't allowed. Yasuka asks about Saya and Makino. Suddenly, an idiosyncratic appears from behind the nurse. She teases them as she asks if they are looking for the kids. She jokingly mentions that they are lost. She then gives the order to tie them up, prompting Yasuka to ask her what she is planning to do with them. The nurse smiles as she states,
Lies are seeds of a revolt. Take them to the gym.
This puts Yasuka at unease. Her underling shaky voice affirms. Aoi shouts at the nurse, telling her that others are coming with her, and that they will be going to look for Anazaki. Inside the ward, Yuna's mother is informing Anazaki that her and Yuna used to be refugees in this hospital, right after the flare. Only Mitsui and a few nurses survived here. But then, the women from the neighborhood came, seeking shelter. At first, everything was fine. They cooperated to drive men away from this hospital, but as soon as their common enemy, men, disappeared, a rift opened between the hospital personnel and the refugees. The latter demanded equal share of food and clean beds, while the former refused to give in. The argument grew into bloodshed, and because the nurses were outnumbered, they ended up fleeing. But a few days later, Mitsui returned with Igarashi and the idiosyncratic. They had no choice but to kneel before the overwhelming power of the idiosyncratic. After that, Igarashi and Mitsui set up a strict dictatorship. Enraged, Anazaki asked if the hospital was on the verge of collapse not because of the beasts, but because of the women. To which he answers yes, and after their victory, Mitsui established a class system based on a person's skills. The few whose skills were recognized had their hair tied up, and they put on skirts as a symbol of proper humans. The remaining women became slaves to support the A-class citizens, a slave to support the new civilized manner of the A-class citizens. Anasaki asks her, slaves? She answers that ironically, the new system brought in peace for the hospital, but for the few A-class citizens it's heaven, and for the rest, it's a hellish country. Because her and Yuna had no skills, they were demoted to slaves. They try to run away from that suffering. Elsewhere, idiosyncratics are eating women one after the other. Yes, feeding grounds. Did you think that those monsters obeyed just because of the whistle? Wrong. They don't attack them because they are always full. Those who live in this country always have to offer something for the sake of the country. The A-class citizens offer their skills. The B-class citizens offer their labor. And for the C-class citizens, they offer meat. Yasuka and Aoi are pushed inside of the gym. They are faced with an idiosyncratic who is eating a woman. Yasuka fumbles to the ground, scared for her life, as the idiosyncratic approaches her. In the ward, Anasaki discovers that Yuna was fed to the idiosyncratic. His vision goes blank. Suddenly, nurses enter, joined by an idiosyncratic. She scolds Anazaki, telling him that no one is allowed to do whatever they please. She asks him if he underestimates them because they are women, and asks if he thinks he is allowed to do whatever he pleases. She then laughs it off, and states that it's too bad, because there is only one special man in this country, and that man is Igarashi. So this means she doesn't really need him. She blows the whistle. The idiosyncratic goes in for the attack. She commands him to eat. Onozaki swiftly hits him with a fork straight to the eye. The idiosyncratic falls to the ground, and one of the nurses tries to calm it down. The idiosyncratic crushes her and kills her in the process. Onozaki then picks up an axe and goes for the attack, aiming at the neck and chopping its head clean off. He grabs it from over the shoulders and strikes again, making sure it's dead. Mitsui makes a run for it as rage envelops Onozaki. He heads to the gym and goes on to kill as many idiosyncratics as he can. Mitsui remembers the day she met a miracle. She was surprised to see that there's a sane man in this world. Igarashi asked if she said that her name was Mitsui. He asked if she ran away from a fight in the hospital. To which she answers that it is truly foolish. And she asks herself, why do they fight among themselves in a world like this? Igarashi extends a hand towards her as he offers his help. She looks on into his magical eyes as she thinks they were the most sincere eyes she's ever seen. To begin with, she's never had it easy. Her husband was a violent man that didn't work out. At her job, the arrogant doctors would sexually harass her constantly. But when she met Igarashi, she felt like he was different. She thought she could build a new world with him. However, one day, as she was heading to greet Igarashi to give him the good news, she found him on top of a naked woman. Surprised, she noted that that's the body of a woman who died of an illness this morning. She asks him what he is doing to her, and he answers that now that she's seen him, he can't stay with her anymore. He heads out as she shouts at him to wait. She clings to him as she informs him that she knew he wasn't an ordinary man. She knew he was an idiosyncratic. He pleads with her to let him go, but she pleads with him to let her believe in him. She has made up her mind to create a new world with him. Back to the present. Onozaki is saving Yasuka and Aoi. The women at the gym can't believe their eyes as a simple boy has defeated the idiosyncratic. Some of the A-class citizens barge into the gym. One of them blows the whistle and gives the order to catch Onozaki. He slips right between its fingers, jumps, and strikes the idiosyncratic straight to the head, splitting him in half. Onozaki then glares at the lady who gave the command, who screams and runs away. Yasuka calls out to him. Aoi prompts the women who are about to be eaten. She tells them to get out of here while they still can. They swear to make the A citizens pay. Outside, Saya is running in front. Makino, Arisu, and the blonde women are running as they ask her where she is headed. She tells them that Yasuka and Aoi are going to be fed to the beasts. They can't let that happen. Suddenly, they bump into an A-class citizen who is running away from Onozaki. The A-class citizen asks them what they are doing here and commands them to go back to their workplace. Behind her is a horde of naked women, enraged as they attack them. A brawl breaks out, confusing Makino as she wonders what the hell is going on. The blonde girl tells them that they should get going as well, confusing Saya in the process. As the fight takes place, hair is being pulled left and right. Saya and Makino watch from a distance. Aoi and Yasuka join them, before they discuss to run away from here, stating that this hospital is done for. Elsewhere, the nurse is cornered by some B-class citizens. She asks them what they want and orders them to get out of her way. They fire back by telling her that the most powerful weapon of the A-class citizens like her was the idiosyncratic, who are now dead thanks to Onozaki. They state that they aren't going to follow her orders anymore. They rush in to attack her with different weapons. They strike her on the head with a hammer and a baton, swearing to make her pay for everything, telling her to go screw her country, screw her public order. They don't want to kill her right away either. They want to tear her into pieces. She suddenly finds a quick gap and escapes for a moment. Elsewhere, Igarashi is eating a human hand. He is struggling as he tells himself that he must endure it. Suddenly, Mitsui barges in, calling out to him. She tries to tell him that the citizens have revolted, but he seems to be in a zombie-like state. He attacks her, pins her down, grabs her from the neck, and spreads her legs open. He apologizes. He apologizes for doing the unthinkable to her, especially after she trusted him. And she even forgave him. He had been dreaming of this moment for a long time. That's right. He's just a...
Suddenly, Anazaki barges in, axe high up as he strikes him, chopping his arm right off. Igarashi screams in pain, surprised to find Anazaki right in front of him. He asks him why he's doing this, but then he looks at the window behind him. He finds a lot of women fighting one another, killing one another. Confused, he asks what's going on. Anazaki shouts at him that he's scum, and the only thing he created was hell. Igarashi, his voice soft as he understands what has happened. He laughs, and he admits that he shouldn't have invited Anazaki. He then asks him, why call such a place hell when he considers it a country? People in power rule by monopolizing violence. Isn't this just like any other country mankind has created through its history? Before he came, they were in a state of chaos, vying for supremacy. But when he brought in ultimate power, they finally regained peace and order. What's so hellish about that?
No! You're wrong! Igarashi laughs. There are no right answers in this world. Also, aren't you misunderstanding something? He asked. I just took on the role of a puppet king who did what women wanted me to do. As atonement for all the suffering men caused women. It's those women who created the class system and everything else. Anazaki was in disbelief. Igarashi answers that he regrets it now. Because of the idiosyncratics that he brought in, they chose to create a country of violence. In the end, it's no different from the old, rusty dictatorships of men. Perhaps if he hadn't come, at the end of the chaos, the women could have created a completely new world. He wanted to see that. He even endured the unbearable carnal desires that overwhelmed him every time he saw them. But it's all over now. The experiment has failed. The experiment? Anazaki asked.